It's okay. And I started writing them. I think the deadline was around November. I think I started sometime in the summer. And just remember, like, as you're going along, you're going to have multiple drafts, right? Sometimes over a dozen drafts of essays. And it sounds like a lot, but I might not be able to offer any insight on like more private school applications, but I mostly just applied to UCs and Cal States. The application for that, I think the maximum word count was 350, and they had 4 essays that you needed to submit. So for me, I mean, churning out a 350 essay honestly doesn't take that much time. If you really like spend the time to do it, it takes maybe 30 minutes to an hour. So you're going to have a lot of drafts, right? And don't expect the first one, that you write is going to be perfect. You don't need to stick with one particular one because they're going to give you 8 prompts, sorry. And if as you're writing, you find that you really can't find the words or experiences to go along with it, you can change to another prompt. They're all the same. They're all weighted evenly, if I remember correctly. In fact, I did less common prompts, at least from what I've heard, and I still got into most of the UCs that I applied for, except UC Berkeley and UCLA, which I'm sure a lot of you guys want to go to. And the essays in general, if you're looking to kind of estimate the amount of time you're going to spend on, it's hour-wise, it's not that much. Probably, I want to say maybe like 12, 15 hours just straight like writing essays. But obviously it's going to be spanned out between weeks and months, right? And I do recommend going to your friends to look over your essays, going online, searching up examples of essays that you want to write, because I know they have samples online. And honestly, it follows a format. And as long as you follow that format and you're a decent writer, you have good experiences, it honestly, like the essays should boost your application quite a bit. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the essays. For extracurriculars, I personally wasn't as involved as I feel like I should have been. One of my regrets was just not being in more leadership positions, but like there were other parts of my application that supplemented it. If you guys are like freshman or sophomore year, I would say try to find something to do outside of school as well, right? Don't only stick to clubs and in-school activities. Those are great. And if you have a lot of them, definitely boost your application. But having something that's outside of school just shows that you are, like, you have the commitment. Okay, that you have the commitment to, search for things to do even outside of school, right? And that just looks really great. Also, if you haven't already, like if you're kind of like me and you don't really know what to do in the future yet, being around a well-rounded applicant is good, but something that'll probably make your application stand out a little bit more is just having a singular kind of objective, right? And it sounds kind of bad because, a lot of people don't really have their interests figured out when they're in high school, but just having a goal is a really good thing. And especially when you're writing your essays for UCs, a really good thing that they want to see is just a common link between the 4 essays, right? So you can each essay is obviously going to be different, but if each one is going to be about learning something and learning a new lesson and then applying that towards a goal, it just links all your essays together and overall makes your application stand out. If you've ever really done some research on writing for UC apps, you will hear the word spike. And in an application, a spike is essentially having outstanding statistics in one particular category, right? So if you want to go into maybe med school and all of your things are focused towards, med related, like hospital internships and stuff like that, it really boosts your application. I'm not saying if you're well-rounded, it's bad. I'm just saying if you do know what you want to do, definitely be more aggressive in your application process. And that's pretty much it for me. I'm pretty sure I missed a lot of questions, but feel free to ask if you have any.
Yeah, I put some question on the chat.
Okay.
Yeah, feel free
Perfect.
to answer or pick whatever you want to answer. Thank you.
Alrighty, so the college that I'm in. Okay, well, this is more for after you get into colleges, right? You're going to deal with rejections. And for me personally, I didn't have a dream school that I wanted to go to, but definitely I was kind of vying for like UCLA just because, you know, the prestige, and didn't get in. I did get into UCSD and all the rest of the UCs though. So that was a plus. It gave me options. And what really helped me decide was, this can kind of go both ways. Like looking at Reddit forums, just asking people at the school, you're going to get a lot of mixed opinions, right? At the end of the day, it's really going to come down to you and what you want to do. A lot of people choose a lower ranked school, like let's say a UC over an Ivy League, just because of their financial situation, right? If certain, you know, parts of your tuition or other um, costs aren't covered at a certain school, like let's say if you go into Harvard, if you got into Harvard, right? And the cost of going to Harvard is just like, you know, 60K a year or even more compared to like a really good UC, like let's say UCLA you got in, which is quite honestly only like 35K a year, right? I know some people who chose like the UC instead of an Ivy League school, right? And it just depends on your situation. It's definitely really, it's a valid factor. Also your majors, don't just look at the prestige, right? Look at the majors and look at their individual programs. That's going to be a really big thing when you're applying. So, you know, for like UC Davis, a lot of people think it's lower on the scale of UCs, but if you're going into anything like agriculture related, it's a really good school for that. It has, I forgot, was it like the veterinary program that was like the best in the nation or something? I don't remember. And for business, obviously, if you want to go into business and you want to go to a UC, you should probably pick, or you should probably go for Berkeley, right? Because they have the Haas program. UCLA doesn't really have a business program. Honestly, most UCs don't have a business program. You really have to do your own research when you are applying to these UCs. Don't just look at prestige. I think that was one of the mistakes I made in the beginning when I received all of my acceptances. Like I was just overwhelmed and I didn't know which one to pick. Right? It took a long time to pick. And let me see more questions. I guess I can talk about Whitney. For Whitney, the most memorable things were probably the people. It's if you're in Whitney already, you're probably already working at like the lower spectrum of college work. If you ask a lot of university students, they're going to say that came from Whitney. You're probably going to say that, you know, Whitney prepared them really well before college, just because the amount of stress and the amount of work you have at Whitney is just so much more than an ordinary high school that you would attend elsewhere. My favorite things were probably the activities. Whitney is kind of like a bubble, but I mean, if you really want to, you can write that in your application as well. It's a pretty good topic. Um, what I don't like about Whitney, the lack of variety. Whitney is so STEM oriented that for me, someone who wanted to go into like the business field, there was nothing for me to do at Whitney. There was like MUN, FBLA, and JSA, you know, debating clubs, right? But at the end of the day, those are debating clubs. They only really do so much for your application. If you want to have like the spike that I talked about earlier in your application for business, you have to join business competitions, you have to do like internships, blah, blah, blah. And not saying that you have to do it, but it helps a lot, right? And it's not that hard to apply. Go online, search it up, and just spend that, you know, few hours of effort to apply. You'll get into some, probably. um, what would you have done differently? If I could start high school all over, as I said, I would join more leadership positions. I was really, I wouldn't say I was passive in high school. I applied to pretty much every club that I came across during Club Rush. And bad idea, I went to their like orientations in the beginning, all of them, right? And what really stuck out to me, actually, one event that stuck out to me was FBLA. I joined because it was genuinely interesting. I went to the orientation. First of all, I found out you had to pay a fee, right? Which I mean is a downside, but obviously it's not that big of a deal. And then I learned about the structure of their debates, right? And the frequency of their debates and what else they do. And it honestly just didn't seem like it was for me, right? all I'm saying is go to as many, join as many clubs that you are interested in as possible, and then narrow down your list afterwards. If you always tell yourself, oh yeah, like I'm only joining clubs that I have a real interest in, and then you don't join any clubs, you are just giving yourself an excuse to not do anything. Extracurricular, as I said, clubs, leadership positions help tremendously, and internships, outside events, activities. You can write anything on your application. Seriously, you can write babysitting your parent. I mean, not your parents, your siblings. You can write like you were part of an independent research project, and it doesn't even have to be for like an official thing, right? It could just be for your teacher. Whatever thing you spent time on. Colleges don't want to see, that you did dozens of things. They want to see like maybe those few things that you did throughout high school and that you spent the majority of your time on. Tips applying for college: start early. All I can say, do not wait until the last minute. I know a few people who did their applications the week before they were due for UCs. And, they were smart people, but their procrastination habits were honestly not, it was not okay. And they were just dying at the end, right? You're so stressed, and it's just going to make your life so much harder. For me, I finished my applications probably 2 weeks before the deadline, even though I started during the summer. And that's just because you're never going to feel satisfied about your essays. And that's just the thing you're going to have to live with. You're always going to feel like you could do better. But at a certain point, when you write something or when you finish an essay and you feel good about it, leave it, right? You go on to the next essay, go on to the next thing. Stop. Don't keep on worrying about the same thing. Once you're done with it, move on to maybe your other application processes, right? And what should you write about? Essays can be about anything: personal experiences, family. I will say though, there are a lot of things that are common to write in essays that you might not really expect, like family situation, right? Maybe like talking about something heavy like divorce or a family member dying. It's important, but it is like a lot of people will write about it, right? Just make sure if you are doing it to make yourself stand out. At the end of the day, it's about standing out. And yeah, it could really be anything you want it to be about. Again, search online for examples; those help a lot. Kind of inspiration. Well, again, for me, I didn't really have any inspiration. It was my main objective for applying for UCs was the quality of education you get and the cost benefit ratio. Right? I didn't want to apply for a private college that I didn't really know anything about and that may or may not have a better education, but was like 2 times as expensive. It just didn't seem worth it to me. Next, also have safety schools. Those will be lifesavers. Cal States are a great safety school. If you are in Whitney and you have like above a 3.5 GPA, you're getting into Cal State. You're getting into like Cal State Fullerton and all that stuff. And this is another thing that I'm going to talk that I think you should know. Cal States are good, like really good for business. The only reason I didn't go was just because I like UCSD's variety better. But something like Cal State Fullerton, San Diego State University, those two are heavily recruited by like accounting firms. Like if you've ever been interested in accounting, there's something called the Big Four, which are the 4 biggest accounting firms. And they recruit really, really heavily at like Fullerton, San Diego State University, just because Cal States are more geared towards giving you a practical education, right? UCs, their education is great if you're going on to like graduate school. And it's really good, actually. A lot of people will say that the prestige is more important than the education. And I agree to a certain point. It's important maybe in the beginning, right? But it depends on what you want to do. If you want to get a job straight out of college, your 4-year college degree, and then you also don't want to like be in 100K of debt and you want to go into business, I will honestly say Cal State is so much like it's a way better option. My friend actually chose Cal State Fullerton over UCLA because Cal State Fullerton had this business honors program that was so well suited for him, and he like liked it so much. It aligned so much with what he wanted to do that he felt that it was just the better option. Honestly, I don't blame him. It is a really good option as well. So look at programs. It's not just about the prestige. Last one, basically, I have 2 things. And that's pretty much it for the questions I received from Jennifer. or Mrs. Zhao, sorry. If any of you have any more questions, feel free to ask. I know I talked for a long time.
Thank you, Max. And any, yeah, have question and just unmute yourself. Feel free to ask.
Hi, Max. So what are you most looking forward to at CSD?
So this is going to be a pretty generic answer. The people. It's going to be the campus, the people, the freedom of UCSD, right? Of course, it's important to think about the future, like what you want to do after college too. But I think I'm just going to be focusing, for at least right now, on the experience that I get from college, right? Because when you're applying for college, one thing you're probably going to search up a lot is like social atmosphere and if they're a party school. I know a lot of people, they don't really think about that at the beginning, but once they receive their acceptances and they start really looking into a college, they're going to be looking at like social life, close like hangout places, whether it's near a beach, the party atmosphere. And again, right, it all depends on what you want to do. Like I said at Cal State was great for business, but at the same time, sometimes the social atmosphere isn't that great and you're better off going to UC if that's something that's really important to you.
Okay, great.
Any other questions? Feel free to just unmute.
So everyone, if you can turn on your camera, it's really appreciate. It's like a small,
or parents too. If you guys want to ask a question, feel free to.
Yeah, parents can ask questions. If not, thank you, Max.
No problem.
Now, yeah, we'll have Nika. Nika, are you ready? Are you there? Hi, Nika.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, she is still driving in the car. She's in the car, so she's very busy. Thank you for coming, Nika.
Sorry about being in the car. I'm driving back from a track meet actually to support Whitney at CIFs, and we had some good results.
Oh. So you went on a soccer? Which one?
Track and field CIFs. Oh, I didn't compete, but I went to support the team.
Oh, support your team. Oh, very good. Very good.
Do you hear me all right? Is everything good with the microphone?
Yes. Yeah, very clear, very good. And we can hear.
All right.
And yeah, as everybody know, and Nika, she's not a Chinese parents group. See, her dad is Mike. He's from Whitney Foundation chair. I know Nika, and also she took Chinese. She took Chinese lesson in all her high school, and she passed Chinese AP5, and she can speak very good Chinese too. And Nika, she went. Yeah, she's going to Air Force Academy. So this college is very different with other college. So we'd very like to hear about Air Force Academy. So can you talk about it and how do you choose this school as a female, and you are very stand out, very different, very good. So, okay, Nika, you can start.
Thank you. So, first of all, thank you for inviting me here. It's super awesome to see familiar faces. Hi, Justin. It was great to hear from Max. I'm Nika Fedorova, if you don't know me. And as Ms. Zhao said, I will be attending the United States Air Force Academy this coming summer, not fall, because we have mandatory basic training during the summer time. So it's going to be a mandatory summer camp with lots of culture shock for me. So a little bit about my time at Whitney. I've had a great experience at Whitney. I really, really loved it here. I loved the culture and I loved the opportunities that it gave me personally. The one thing that I think I participated in most at Whitney was definitely ASB. ASB was kind of my thing. Soon it will be Justin Singh, our future ASB president. I really loved sports also at Whitney. I was on the volleyball team as well as track and field. And it just made me very happy to be a part of those two teams. In terms of clubs, I think the only club that I was really a part of other than ASB, I was a little bit in pen on paper, and I think that's about it. And also Chang'an. I love being a part of that club because I took Chinese for 4 years and took AP Chinese, which was amazing. Lao Shi was a great teacher, and I really, really loved that class for 4 years. I miss it this year since some of us seniors didn't take it since we took AP last year. And into more of like the college application process for me. Obviously, I had a very different application process than most people do because I applied to two service academies. If you don't know what a service academy is, it is, there are several of them. There's West Point, which is the United States Military Academy, Air Force Academy, the Naval Academy, and there's more like the Coast Guard Academy and some other ones. But the only ones I applied to were United States Military Academy in New York, West Point, as well as the US Air Force Academy, which I will be attending. And the college application process for that is a very, very long one. So if you are interested in pursuing that type of path for your college education and like the years after that, you need to get started now. You need to start researching about that and getting ready, because I started that application process in June of my junior year. So if any of you guys are juniors, you would be starting that now, because you have to secure a congressional nomination. You have to apply for that and get a lot of letters of rec for that from teachers and everyone, even your principal, so Mr. Brickley. You have to take a fitness test. So you have to train and take that test and hopefully pass it. I actually had to take it twice because when my mom was filming me doing the push-ups, her phone died. So I had to take that twice. That was unfortunate, but I passed it, obviously. And just a bunch of other things. So for the military academy applications, if any of you are interested in that, I would highly, highly recommend getting started now, because those things take a very long time. It's a very long process, and you'll have to be writing essays for them, as well as completing all of those outside things like the fitness exam, as well as the congressional nomination. You have to have an interview for that and an interview for the school. It's a long process, but it's definitely worth it if that is the path that you want to take. I also did apply to UCs and I think 2 other outside schools. I didn't get into the outside schools, but I did get into the UCs that I applied to. And similar to Max, I think that my advice for applying to UCs or any other private schools would be to definitely not procrastinate. That's the worst thing you can do. I procrastinated quite a lot, and it resulted in a lot of stress for me later on down the line. And another piece of advice I have is for essays. I would say the most important thing is to make sure that the essay you write is true to yourself, something that you're going to be proud of, because at the end of the day, the colleges are only going to be seeing 2 minutes of you. They're not going to know you, but you know yourself, and you should put out what you're proud of. Don't worry too much if the colleges want to see. Put out yourself, put out, you worked hard for the past 4+ years. Well, technically, how many? Up until senior year, 11 years of your life, you've worked hard, and you should really just write something that you will feel fulfilled with. Because even if you write the perfect college essay, there's a good chance that, the colleges might not accept you, and that's just the reality. So my best advice is to stay true to yourself in your essays and write something that you think really embodies who you are. Let me check the other questions. Sorry, I'm using my phone, so I have to access the chat in a different way. What extracurriculars have you done in high school? Sorry, did you want to say something, Miss Zhao?
So what do you like about Whitney, and what do you if you have a chance to start over, what you can do differently?
Yes. Okay, those questions. What I really like about Whitney is the small school experience. I think that it lets you really connect to people, even people not in your grades, on a much larger scale. And I think it also allows you to develop great bonds with your teachers. I think that's one thing. The teachers at Whitney are really great, in my opinion. And I think that because it's a small school, you're really able to kind of be more engaged in every single class. And that's something that was super important to me because I really, really loved learning, and I loved kind of participating in class as much as I could. One thing that I don't like about Whitney as much is I think the severity of the competitiveness. I think that a lot of times some students can get blindsided by competition within themselves, and then I think that it kind of ruins a little bit of the learning experience when we are such a highly competitive school and always talk to in the sense of, well, my desk mate is my competition for college, and that's not necessarily true. I think that a really, really important thing to recognize is that you can everyone can win. It's not that one person wins and one person loses. It's just everyone also takes different paths. So I think that's one thing that we need to work on at Whitney, is to emphasize the importance of both winning, having multiple people win rather than fighting to be the best, because that just kind of results in not the best experience, not the friendliest experience. One thing, if I could start over at Whitney, honestly, I've really enjoyed my time at Whitney, and I think that I made a lot of really good decisions that led to that enjoyment. But if I have one, my biggest regret is not joining track my freshman year. I know that's probably a very random thing, but I really, really love being a part of the sports teams. And that just, for me, that was kind of a place where after school, after a long day of academics, I could just go and have fun with my team. So I don't think, if you're a younger classman, I think you shouldn't overshadow the importance of being a part of a team, whether it's sports or a club, robotics, something like that, something that is your passion. Because if you're also thinking about it in terms of the college application process, if you're just doing academics, you're not going to have much to write about. So that's going to cause some problems when you get to writing your essays, because if you haven't participated in many things, you're going to struggle to find what to write about in those essays. Are there any more questions? Oh, about the college I'm going to now and why I chose it. So I chose the United States Air Force Academy. I was choosing between UCLA, Berkeley, and USAFA, which is where I'm going. And what led me to decide USAFA was the unique experience that it gives. It obviously gives a lot of benefits, like a completely free education and guaranteed work after. But what ultimately made me choose that was I kind of wanted to do something that was unique, something that was a little bit different. My sister went to UC Berkeley. She graduated this year, actually. And I just, looking at how she was there, she had an amazing time, and she's wonderful, intelligent alumni now, but it just didn't seem like the right fit for me. So when I was having a very hard time deciding, I was mostly deciding between UCLA and the United States Air Force Academy. But ultimately what led to my decision was the experience that I would get at the United States Air Force Academy, because it's unlike any other school. And it kind of, the idea of that challenge of going there was very appealing to me. And I plan to study either electrical engineering or aeronautical engineering at the Air Force Academy. And oh, one more thing that I really liked about their program was how hands-on they were in comparison to UCLA. Their program for engineering is a lot more theoretical, but at United States Air Force Academy, it's a lot more hands-on, and it's very small classroom sizes. It's like sometimes 8 people to like max 30 people in a class. So it's a very small school. And I think that benefits my learning better. and just the chance to be able to hands-on build things, even like build a rocket is a really cool opportunity in my opinion. Any other questions?
Somebody has question?
I have a question. What profession are you thinking about going after you graduate as a electrical engineer major?
So when you go to a service academy, you have a minimum commitment of 5 years to the branch that you're going to. So I will be serving as an Air Force officer for 5 years. And specifically in the Air Force, there's a big need for engineers. Sorry, can you still see me? Hello?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, I just went through something. There's definitely a big need like for engineers, like planes and all that thing. So I definitely think I would pursue like the engineering branch in the Air Force. But in terms of after those 5 years, I'm not sure exactly what my ultimate dream as a career is, but I really, really like being innovative, and I like mathematics and building things. Well, I think I do. I don't have much experience building things, but my time in ASB has taught me that I really, really love to plan and innovate and create. So I think that engineering would be a good fit for me. With electrical engineering, I actually might not pursue that degree at the Air Force Academy simply because I think that I think that the Air Force Academy specializes in aeronautical engineering. So I've been considering leaning towards that side. I'm not completely sure yet. The one thing that's great about the Air Force Academy is that you come in undeclared. You don't choose your major until the spring of your freshman year. So that gives you a really great opportunity to kind of adjust to the college life and then really figure out what it is that you want to do if you haven't already. I'm not, did that answer your question?
Yes, you did. Thank you.
Somebody has question? No? Okay. Thank you, Nika. Very good. Excellent.
Thank you for having me.
And
Bye-bye.
then later on, we will send you all your speakers as our appreciation. We will send you a gift card for tonight after the meeting. Okay, and now we'll have Charles. Is Charles ready? Are you here, Charles? Yes.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, Charles, yes, did you see all the questions on the chat? Feel free and talk anything. Your college, your high school, your college application you want to share with us. Thank you, Charles.
Okay, yeah. So in addition to those questions, I wrote down something small on like some post-its. And that's actually the first thing. It's good to be organized when you're doing anything. Sometimes you just have like an idea, or you have so much to do that it gets swamped, and sometimes it helps to write all that down on a post-it. So like maybe like next week you have something to do, the day after that, you can't like remember everything, so just write it down. And so yeah, okay. My name is Charles Chen. I'm planning to attend Cornell next year, and I'll be studying economics and philosophy. So yeah, I plan on going either pre-law or something like business related, that kind of stuff. And so I'm actually just gonna go back to those questions in the chat later and instead defer to what I have written down. So for my application, obviously it's good to be early. It's very good to, you know, be prudent and on time, get everything done. But also doesn't really matter that much. But it all depends actually. So there's this program that I run with a friend at school, and it's basically a scholarship program called the House Scholarship Program. We do like an award system every year, and it's like funded and all that by like Walmart. That's our big name. That's our big sponsor, Walmart. Um, but one thing that like ironically, since we're looking at scholarship, we're looking at applications ourselves. So what we found out is that I personally really like the applications that come super early. So you see, there's usually two groups of applications that are good. The good applications come either just before the deadline or like 1 or 2 days before the deadline, because those are like the crammers, but they're still good. And the other group of good applications come really early, like I'm talking 1 or 2 or 3 months early. So, you know, you kind of sometimes, you know, it looks good or no. Sometimes, you know, when you're doing an application, you're thinking like, oh, what are my ideas for the deadline? Oh, when do I want to get this done? But the other times you should think about it from the reviewer's perspective, you know, because really the person looking at your application, they're only going to like it if it's, you know, early, on time, well written, well thought out. And they don't usually, all their decisions are already made by the time they get to the applications at the end of the application season, like 2 or 3 days before deadline. So, you know, it really helps if you put your application early. So that's the reason why you should get your stuff in, not necessarily because, you know, it helps clear your schedule or whatever, but because it just gives you the best opportunities or the best chances. And so that's the House Scholarship Foundation is one thing that I do for extracurricular activities. But in terms of school activities, I'd say I'm pretty active at school. You know, I did the whole routine, the whole join clubs, you know, be active, you know, that kind of standard stuff. That's just protocol, you know. So yeah, if possible, you know, maybe I would have joined some more clubs, but you know, the ones that I've done is already enough. Because honestly, I kind of just did whatever I felt I was interested in, not and I was interested in a lot of stuff, so I didn't really have that problem of not knowing what to do. But yeah, it just helps if you want to do the thing you're doing. So there's this idea that gets thrown around a lot during like speeches or talks or something like that. It's like, you know, don't do something you want to do for money. Do it because you want to do it. But that's true. That's all not true, you know, because you know you do need money, but you don't always find the things that you want to do. You don't always find it like immediately. It doesn't come to you. Sometimes you have to go and search for it, right? So it works both ways. Um, yeah. It's also important not to be stuck, not wanting to do something. You just got to be malleable, you know, you got to be free flowing. Nextly, above all, it's important to have a personal goal of yours because eventually, you know, you're going to go into college, hopefully, and college is basically just a second chance of high school, and high school is basically a second chance of middle school, and middle school is a second chance of elementary, and elementary is not a second chance of anything. So, you know, you're running out of second chances, basically. But in college, you know, you have to have your personal goal. You have to know what you want to do. It's not something that it's not something to be wasted. It's time. You don't get a second life unless, some religions, but yeah, you gotta have your raison d'être. That's like French for a reason to exist. You have to have your, your goal. What do you want to do? You have to have that, because then that will guide you the rest of your things, extracurriculars, academics. It will do everything for you. Well, not for you, but you do it for yourself. So also have to have a lot of sleep. You have to be healthy, because one thing, I don't know if you noticed, but if you don't sleep, your brain starts not working. That's just physical. It's not because you have any problems. It's just because you're not sleeping. And sometimes, a lot of times, I don't do homework and I just go to sleep. It works. You still, as long as you make it up, you still get A's. But it's important to have sleep. And that's because physically, body, you've heard it, right? You don't develop fully until you're 25. Well, if you don't sleep, then you don't develop at all, because that's when your body starts doing the real stuff. As you're building your building blocks. So, yeah, you have to sleep. You also have to eat well and maintain good physical health, and sports helps with that, because you're out and about, you're doing something. It's also good to have like a regimen set up. That's what sports does. Practice, daily practice. Every day after school, you go and you practice, you work out, and go back, and you're good. So it just helps set up your mindset for the future. Next, that's it. I don't have anything else. Okay, what is the most memorable things at Whitney? The most memorable thing at Whitney for me was, I guess, the people. I would say the same thing as Max did. The people are what make the school great. But, the school could be better, but that's what defines Whitney, is the people. And it's like any organization. It's not the organization. The organization is nothing. It's only the people that make it up. So college, you're gonna have to deal with people, but sometimes you don't have to deal with people. You can work with people. It's a synonym right there. So yeah, I would say the people are what define Whitney. Next, if I could start over, what would I do differently? Well, I don't really have much I would do differently, except one thing that in senior year I didn't do. But yeah, I'm not, you don't show your card, I'm not, you just, no, yeah, don't get lazy. Overconfidence is not, you don't get lazy, dude. So, more questions? What extracurricular, I think the one thing that I did in college that helped me get, or I did in high school that helped me get into college was, I don't know. I can't tell you. I didn't read my own application. I don't have like I'm not the guy who read it. So there's things for everybody. Like when I read other people's applications with the Scholarship Foundation, there were just different things that clicked. It's just, I don't know, it's actually just a lot of it is personal preference or personal knowledge. If you know that, for example, this organization is this big and this cool, then obviously that helps a lot. So yeah. Also, I do have some tips for applying to college. I know I've been talking in a monotone voice. That's just how it is, you know, sorry. But you shouldn't be writing like this. When you write, obviously this is like laying advice. This is AP laying advice that you should take into consideration. You should have a very varied voice. You should be able to understand what you're saying. Like you should be able to imagine it. That's one thing. You should also get like a third person perspective on your own writing. Sometimes, you know, obviously whatever you write to you looks great, right? For example, if you write like an essay in ninth grade, you present it to Miss Hunter and you say, obviously this is 100%. You give me like my A+ already. Well, she gives you a B and you're like, what happened? Well, you know, that's because what you write seems a lot different from what other people read it. So you have to take that different perspective into account. Don't sound pretentious, guys. Don't be too wordy, be simple, because at the end of the day, take into consideration their perspective. They don't want to read a whole essay, a whole play, a whole dialogue, an opera, some musical brilliance. You know, they're not going to waste their time on that. If you throw them with 10,000 copies of a play that you wrote, they're not going to read that. I'm saying that example because one person did that for their scholarship application. And I was like, what? I'm not going to read that. So, yeah, don't do that. What do you like about the college you're going to? Well, one big factor was that it's on the East Coast. On the East Coast, you get access to, not really access to, you have potential, because think about it. Okay, this is another thing. For the scholarship foundation, obviously, you know, you need to grow, you need to develop a nonprofit, you need to be able to market to different whatever's, you know, all that stuff. And one way to do that is to mainly focus on your own region. You know, you grow rep locally, and then you branch out. You don't do the other way around. And so I really favored the applications that are from nearby locations, like Cerritos High School or even Whitney, so like nearby. So in the East Coast, they really like East Coast schools. West Coast, they like West Coast schools. It's just the cultural difference. So yeah, I guess on the East Coast, you get more opportunities there, connections, and a lot of the longer institutions, older institutions are on the East Coast too. So I don't know what that reads. Okay, that's all I have in terms of advice. Yeah.
So, Charles, I know your family is doing like medical. You have brother, he's doing a doctor or something, and you are different, and you pursue something like philosophy. Are you don't want to do a biology or medical field? What do you think with their expectation? Why you pick this field? Can you talk about it?
Well, philosophy is mostly for pre-law. So law schools on the East Coast location is very it's better than law schools on the West Coast. Well, not better, but it's just more opportunities there. So philosophy is for law school. That's the main thing I was going for.
Oh,
And also helps get you think. So get you to think. So it's like, yeah.
So law school is your dream. You want to do law in future.
Well, actually, I'm not too sure. There's a lot of things I want to do. Yeah. So I wouldn't define, I wouldn't say it's like yeah, sure. I'm going to do law school. That's what I plan on doing.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for sharing, Charles. Great. Somebody have questions for Charles? If no question, we'll go to next speaker. We have Ashley here. Is Ashley ready?
Oh, wait, I think there was a question in the
Okay. In the chart. Okay. Charles.
From Mr. Ying. Do you have any good advice for students who will go to high school?
Clubs and school activities will be helpful for applying to a good university.
So, I'm just thinking right now.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's a lot of things that you can do to boost your application, but things that you can also do at the same time that you want to do. So, coincidentally, a lot of things that I wanted to do boosted my application. So, I would just focus on what you want to do. I say that because, legally, I don't want to tell you to do one thing and then I'm wrong and you're going to be like, oh, what's up with that? I don't want to be responsible for that. That's why I say that.
I guess it's to pick your interest, have a passion, right? So, okay, Ashley, you are here. Are you ready? Okay.
Yeah. All right. Hi, guys.
Hi,
So my
thanks for
name's
coming.
Ashley. My name's Ashley. I'm going to be attending UC Berkeley this fall, and my major is pre-business, but I'm also interested in legal studies and policy. So I'll just go down with the questions. I wrote down some of my answers. So my most memorable Whitney experience would definitely be like the club activities. I feel like Whitney has a really big club culture, and it's a really, really easy way to meet people and like have a group of people that you can go to. And also it's helpful like for college apps as well. So it's like, it's a win-win situation, I think, in general. And then I think what I didn't like about Whitney was probably the same thing as everybody else. It's kind of like, I feel like Whitney pushes you to reach your potential, which is a good thing, but at the same time, it does put a lot of pressure on you, and you have to learn how to manage your stress or you're going to be kind of miserable sometimes. I remember one of our teachers even said in class that every person, like the person sitting next to us, is our competition. And I feel like that kind of mentality will make you very, very miserable. So I feel like something that you should really keep in mind is don't think of everyone as your competition. Think of people as there to help each other, and that way you'll be happier. And yeah, it's just an easier way to deal with like the stress of competition. So something that I would do differently is I would not sign up for classes blindly. I feel like a lot of the time I would see my friends sign up for these hard classes and I would think, oh, you know what, I need to sign up for those classes too, even though I wasn't necessarily interested in it. So I signed up for like a lot of difficult math classes, but I'm not really interested in math. And I feel like it was really like hard for me to do well in those classes too, because it's not something I personally was interested in. And so I would definitely say be strategic with the classes that you sign up for, or you're not gonna understand like why you're doing things. And that's something I think you should keep in mind in general, is have a direction for where you're going. Always know the purpose as to why you're doing something. And that goes for clubs as well. Don't just sign up for a ton of clubs just
to put it on your resume, really do something that you're passionate about, because when you sit down to write your college application and your college essays, you will realize that, you know, they all want to know why you did something. They don't want to know, oh, like how many awards you won or whatever. Like that's, I mean, important too, but the essays are all about like your passion and why exactly you're doing that. So if you're doing something that you're not passionate about for like multiple years, and then you sit down and you realize like when you're writing your essay that you don't really know why you did it, and it'll be really, really difficult for you to like write a good essay like that. Another thing I would do differently is I would join outside extracurriculars. I feel like club extracurriculars, I joined a ton of those. But I didn't join a lot of outside extracurriculars. And the ones that I did, so I joined a program called the Young Legislators Program. And it was a really, really great experience. And I feel like joining outside extracurriculars is just better in a way, because again, like the Whitney atmosphere makes you feel like everyone is your competition. But once you venture out, you realize that there's so many other students and there's so many other people. And it's just easier also to get leadership positions outside of school, because I feel like you bring more to the table. I feel like a lot of Whitney students are kind of similar, so it's harder to stand out. Whereas if you go outside and join outside extracurriculars, you definitely stand out as a Whitney student. Another thing I would do differently is I would have more confidence and just try new things. I feel like a lot of the time I just went with the flow, or I went with what my friends were doing, which at the time was fun, but looking back, I really wish that I joined some clubs that I initially was interested in, but maybe my friends weren't joining. So I joined Girl Up and FBLA like this year, and I really, really, really enjoyed those clubs. So I just wish I joined them earlier. And the reason I hadn't was because my friends weren't really doing that. And I was like, well, I want to do stuff that like I know people like there. So I would definitely just have more confidence and join different things. And another thing that I would do differently is I would spend more time with my friends. I feel like I didn't spend a lot of time with my friends because I was always trying to like do things for school or like catch up in class and stuff. But it's really important to stay happy, and I think that's something that we overlook very often, especially at this school. But if you're not happy, you can't really do anything well, and it's just not like a good state to be in, especially when you come to the college app season. You have to be really confident when you're writing about your essays, because you're marketing yourself. So you just have to make sure that throughout high school you stay happy and like have a support group that's cheering you on. And one last thing I would say is just to have a goal besides college, like outside of college, a career goal, something to set your sights on, because after college, like after you get into college, I feel like if you don't have a goal in mind as to what you want to do with your life, you'll feel kind of like purposeless and you'll lack motivation. And I know a lot of kids who, work really hard to get into college, and then they feel like that's the end goal. And then when they get to college, they don't do very well because they thought that they already got to their final destination, when it's like really just the first step to, your future. So always like have a bigger purpose as to why you're doing things. So extracurriculars that helped me get into college, I did a lot of club activities. So I was like a big part of Yearbook. I was the editor-in-chief of Yearbook, and I've been part of Yearbook for 3.5 years. I was also I also did Chinese club, or Club Chang'an, since my freshman year, and I was vice president and like the dance competition head. And then I also helped found this club called 9K Homes, which basically we build a house every April for a family in need in Baja, Mexico. And I was the vice president of that club. And then I was also part of FBLA and Girl Up cabinets. So I feel like definitely my club extracurriculars helped me a lot, because I had a lot of leadership in that, and I had a lot of experiences from my clubs that I could talk about in my essays. And the reason why I joined so many clubs, which I wouldn't necessarily recommend, but the reason why I did it was because I really didn't know what I wanted to do. And so I felt like it was super important to stay well-rounded and just do anything that I was interested in. But I do feel like I overdid it a little bit, because even outside of just the clubs I was a cabinet of, I was also in other clubs just for fun. And I think I kind of overloaded on that. So I would definitely pick and choose clubs that you are very passionate about, and just focus on getting into the best leadership position for those clubs. Another extracurricular that I did that I feel like helped me a lot was I was a research assistant at this university. I really didn't think that I could be because I've never been STEM oriented. I've never been like particularly good at science or math, but I was really interested in psychology. And so I just emailed a couple of professors to ask them, you know, if they would be willing to like let me help them with their projects. I just showed them my resume, and surprisingly, like one of the professor's assistants responded to me, and it was a really great experience because I feel like that made me stand out a little bit since I was going into liberal arts or business, but I still had some like psychology research on my resume, like something different to set me apart from other liberal arts or business majors. So I would definitely say that you should just do things that you're interested in, even if it's not necessarily like exactly what you want to do in the future. It can definitely make you stand out, which is also important. And I also think an extracurricular that helped me get into college was the Young Legislators program, which I mentioned earlier. It's a program mostly about like, it's like politics and stuff like that. And so I just joined it because I'm interested in policy, but I feel like it was so easy to write about that program because it's a lot easier to be passionate about something outside of yourself, like politics or a world cause. And when you come to writing your essays, you realize that it has to be meaningful. And that's why, in my opinion, or like in my experience, I applied to a lot of schools for policy because it was just so much easier to write about like political matters or current events because I could really show my passion and interest in those rather than like a specific career. And then like for tips for college apps, somebody actually asked me the other day, like for some tips, and they gave me some questions. So I'm just gonna go off of what I wrote for that person. So one thing that the person asked me was, what do you think I should finish by the summer? So I would definitely say, try and finish at least a draft of your personal statement by the summer. For me, the personal statement was the hardest essay. It's very abstract and so difficult to approach. And you really don't know how they are going to grade you, or like not grade you, but like judge it. Because it just has to be interesting. It doesn't necessarily have to be like really impressive. So I would definitely say do like a rough draft at least of your personal statement, and then you can come back to it like maybe a month later and you'll have like a different set of eyes and look at it and see like from a different perspective, and then you can edit it and stuff like that. Another thing you should probably finish by your summer is teacher and counselor rec forms. I didn't know that you had to do these until like college apps, but basically you have to write like a form for your teachers and counselors in order for them to write a recommendation letter for you. And those can take a while because there are quite a lot of questions. I know the counselor's rec form was like 20 questions. And so I would definitely finish that by the summer because it's due very, very shortly after school starts. Another thing I would finish by the summer is basic outline and brainstorm for your UC essays since they're due in November. And finally, I would have like a finalized list of schools that you're going to apply to and split the schools into dream, reach, target, and safety, because you can switch up your strategies depending on what school you want to apply to. So it's really important to know exactly like where that school is in terms of your chances in getting in, and then you can kind of decide how you're going to approach the essay and how you're going to approach the application. In terms of like how long the applications take, or like the essays, the personal statement definitely took me the longest. It took me like a month or two to just write. And so it's really important to just set it aside and then come back to it because it's the least predictable and it's very abstract. The UC essays are a lot chiller. I would definitely say the UC essays are more like an extension of your activity description. So you have to do like activity descriptions. So UC essays are just more like, what did you do? They just want to know like what you did, not necessarily like entertain them or amuse them or like make it flowery or anything. They just want to know what you did. So definitely like write in terms of like all the things that you did when you're writing your UC essays. Those took me a lot less time, maybe like a month and then a week to cut down the essay, because one thing that I think a lot of people don't realize is that you have to spend time to cut down your essays as well. If you're a writer like me who like often writes over the word count, and that can take a really long time. So just make sure that you give yourself enough time to also cut down and edit essays after you write them. In terms of private school essays, I would say that they just require a lot of research into the school or program, but after you write a few, it's really easy to just reuse those essays and replace the names of programs like for each school. But I would definitely say make sure that you choose schools that you're actually interested in going so that you'll be interested in researching that school. You don't want to be stuck researching about a school that you're not even that interested in because it's just a waste of time if you know that you're probably not going to go anyway. And then, yeah, that's pretty much it for essays. And then for like resources that you could use to help you, I know Max was talking about like Matriculate or something. I feel like that's a really cool resource since it's free. I remember for myself, I used College Vine. College's Vine is like this website that does like these free app and essay writing seminars. You can just sign up and they'll just like basically spam your inbox with like whenever they have a seminar, which is pretty cool. And so you might even be able to get them to read your essays if you like recommend enough people to their seminar or something. But even if you can't get them to read your specific essay, it's really, really helpful to sit in and watch them critique other people's personal statements or private school essays. Another resource I would use is definitely teachers and counselors. So teachers and counselors, it's already important to get close to them, right? Because they're going to be writing your recommendation letter. So it's really, I think, impactful if you just ask them for help and keep in touch with them, because not only will you be like getting closer to them and getting to know them better, and they're getting to know you better, but they're a really good resource because they've seen a lot of essays, I think, throughout the years. And then you should also ask older students who got into the schools that you want to go to, because I feel like they obviously got into that school, so they could help you a lot. Another thing you could do is probably like hire an outside counselor for the college app process. And I feel like that's really helpful if you need someone to keep you accountable for deadlines. And if you want like insider information on how the app process works, or like what kind of schools or like what kind of essays like schools want, or like how schools are, but they cost money. So I would definitely go with the other options first. And then something I knew before doing apps is definitely to offset my stress in the fall of my senior year. So for me, like that was a huge mistake because for yearbook, we had a ton of work in the fall and it was so difficult to write like all my counselor and teacher rec forms and also my UC essays at the same time as like doing all these things for my extracurriculars. And so definitely if you can offset that stress, if you can do your extracurricular stuff or school stuff like for the fall in the summer, then that would be a really, really great idea, because then in the fall, you're free to just focus on college apps. Another thing is definitely, like I said, only apply to a school that you genuinely would consider going to. Ultimately, you're only going to go to one school, right? So more isn't definitely like better. And I feel like sometimes, at least for myself, I would be writing an essay and then I'd be like, well, I'm not really that interested in like this college. I don't really know why I'm writing this essay, right? So you don't want to be like that. And another thing is, before you come up with like a list of schools you're going to apply to, look at the essay prompts for each of the schools, because some essay prompts are really, really difficult to approach. I remember I wanted to apply for U Chicago, but their essay prompts are really quirky and like weird. And so I decided not to ultimately, because I realized I would spend too much time on a school that I probably couldn't get into because their prompt was really hard to approach. Another thing that you should do is aim to finish writing your essays before winter break, or you're going to have a very, very depressing Christmas and New Year's like I did. And it's not fun, you know, when your family is like having fun and playing games and like celebrating the holidays and you're just like in your room just doing essays. So just make sure that to try and offset your stress in the holiday season, because you want to have like fun and relax a little bit. And like it's a great reward after finishing all your essays to spend some time with your family and friends during the holidays. And then another thing is, if a school lets you submit multiple reference letters, you definitely should. I remember I got into one of my like dream schools or like reach schools. I ultimately didn't end up going, but I got in because I feel like because I submitted a rec letter from the professor I worked with, as well as like my yearbook advisor on top of my teacher and counselor recs. And I think that really, really helped me, even though that school was like kind of out of my reach. And then another thing I would say is reach out to people for help, because people are always willing to help you, especially older students, because they love when like younger students come to them for help. It makes them feel like, you know, like they're passing down the knowledge. And then also be concise. I know Charles talked a little bit about this, but just be concise with your words, because ultimately there's a word count. So they don't really want like flowery language and stuff like that. They just want to know like exactly what you did and why you're passionate about it. I would say like for most essays at least. And then for writing your essays, don't just write things that you think will be impressive, because that's what everybody is doing. Write things that are actually passionate to you. It doesn't have to be like a leadership position or like an award or something really big, but if you're truly passionate about it, that will really show like through your essay. Like the officers can tell they've read so many different essays, and you can't really fake your passion. So definitely write something that you are actually passionate about. And then in terms of what school I chose and like why I chose my school and like what I like about my college. So I was mainly choosing between Berkeley, UCLA, and Cornell. And so it was a really hard choice for me because obviously Cornell is an Ivy League school and I was so like flattered like that I got in and everything. But I think I chose UC Berkeley over Cornell because I felt like Cornell was just a little bit expensive for me and I knew I wasn't going to get financial aid. And I also got into the policy school. And as you guys know, like as I said, I wasn't totally sure what I wanted to do with my career. And so it's kind of hard to switch between schools, especially in private schools. But the school I got into for Berkeley, which is the Letters and Sciences School, it's a big college and there's so many different majors to choose from and you can switch majors really easily. And so that's something that I considered really heavily. And then also because I felt like the environment wasn't for me, I feel like it could definitely be like an amazing environment for some people. But for me, like I felt like it was just like the Cornell environment was like a little yeah, it was a little isolated for me, I guess. And like I think for me, like my mental health is really important. And I just felt like I wasn't sure if I could be super like happy. I don't know, that was really important to me too, like deciding about my environment and stuff like that. But I definitely, it was a really, really hard choice for me. UCLA, I loved UCLA's and campus. I think everybody says that it's beautiful there, but I just wanted to be a little bit farther from home and they didn't have as good of a business program, which is something I'm really interested in. And I felt like the culture wasn't as, it wasn't like, it didn't match me as well as UC Berkeley. And then ultimately UC Berkeley, the biggest reason why I chose Berkeley was because they offered me the Regent Scholarship, which is a scholarship that gives you a lot of benefits. Like when you navigate the school, you get like first choice for like classes and stuff like that. Like you get an advisor, a teacher, like a professor, like a personal one to like help you and stuff. So I feel like, and also because I feel like I just have a lot of love for Berkeley because my brother went there and he had a great experience there. And I just always felt like it was the right place for me because the people are, I think, in my opinion, so like world oriented. They really care about the world and like social justice and making a change. And that's somebody that I want to be. And so I want to surround myself with people that I want to become more like. And also I think, yeah, just like the community was the most important thing to me, and also the options, the variety of options that I would have. And actually, just like Charles, I also want to go to law school, but I guess I approached that a little bit differently. I was thinking like, if I'm going to go to law school, it's going to be expensive too. So then if I go to expensive undergrad and then an expensive law school, like I was just really afraid of debt. And so that's ultimately also why I chose Berkeley. But yeah, I think everybody is different and they're like, and everybody has like different factors as to why they choose a college. And so I think just personally for me, these are my like opinions, but you definitely don't have to like listen to what I say at all. And that's pretty much it for me. If you guys have any questions, feel free to drop it in the chat or unmute.
Anybody have question for Ashley? If not, okay, thank you, Ashley, again. And we have Harry.
Okay, I actually have a presentation.
Oh, you want to share? Okay. You want to share a screen, Harry?
Yeah.
Are you available? Can you do that? I have to give you.
No, it is disabled.
Oh. How I gonna do it? Advanced sharing.
You can just change the settings by clicking.
Like a multiple parts. Let me see.
Yeah.
Okay, can you do it now?
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so
哇，
I want to give like a quick
还有人还做 PowerPoint 哦，
I
不
want
光
to
是
give
随便讲，前面有第二个就没够，想到什么就讲，这还有 PowerPoint。
PowerPoint. Yeah.
Okay, so I just wanted to talk about like defining your high school experience. This is something very important to you as a student and also to colleges, I guess. So I guess it will kind of be helpful in your college experience, in your college application experience. So the first thing you want to think about is what you will remember from high school, because I feel like the things you remember are also the things you're going to talk about in your college applications. Because so I made a list of like things you'll remember and things you won't. So like the most important thing is the passions you've developed in high school and the skills you've developed, such as clubs, competitions, and outside organizations. You'll also remember your friends, but colleges don't care about that, so I will not talk about that. And the things you won't remember are like the nights you study all night for a math test and then you fail the next day because you fell asleep during the test, and also that one group project where you did everything and no one else did anything. So the first thing I want to talk about are clubs. So as you can see, these are some of the clubs I've been in, and the most important thing I found about clubs is to always apply for cabinet, because cabinet positions in clubs are actually, when you're just a member of a club, you only see the surface. But once you're in the cabinet, you actually see what's behind it. You get a really thorough understanding of the club, and you get a lot more like just experience out of the club, and also a lot more to write about in your college applications. And even if you're like in 7th grade, 8th grade, there are plenty of people that apply for club cabinet positions in those grades. So just go for it. Like the worst that could happen is they'll say no, and then you could try again next year. So when you're in clubs, you should also attend meetings and join clubs that you're interested in. So like Max said, you could join a lot of clubs at the beginning of the year, and you could just narrow it down based on the ones you find fun and interesting. Um, and PS, join STEM Club, Mock Trial, and Chess Club. Thank you. There's also sports. I kind of grouped it in with clubs. Sports actually take a lot of time. I think personally, sports take a lot of time and they won't help you too much on your college applications. However, there's been links to like physical education, physical exercise, and your mood and your productivity. And I think sports really helps a lot with that. Like a lot of the most productive students at Winnie I've seen are in sports, even though it takes a lot of their time. So I think sports really helps develop just a sense of community within the school, and you'll find plenty of like fun experience and friends at sports. So even if it's not the greatest help to your college application process, I still think a lot of people should join it just to try it out, at least in like your freshman and sophomore year when you have more time. Next, competitions. So competitions are something that are, I would say, extremely helpful to your college applications. However, you have to find a way to really make them fun for yourself. If you're just doing competitions for the sake of getting that award and putting it on your college applications, it's definitely not going to be worth it. So because of that, I would suggest individual and team competitions. Competitions are extremely fun. As you can see on the top left, that's mock trial. And in the right, the middle, that's Science Olympiad. Those were the two main team competitions I did. They're extremely fun, and you get like a sense of community as well as learning things. So I think individual competitions, they could be great, especially if you're doing well, you get like international awards. Definitely helps a lot in college applications. But if you really want to like have something you could write an essay about, you'll remember you should do a team competition. You'll remember all the people in it. Yeah, and you should definitely focus on the learning rather than the results. And then finally, there's a ton of outside organizations. I think, so actually I didn't say it. I'm going to UC Berkeley and I have a dual degree program, which is EECS, Electrical Engineering and Computer Science, as well as business. And outside organizations are extremely helpful first thing you want to know about MET, which is the program I got into, every single person in that program has started their own business. So if you're trying to go down the business route, or you're trying to do like a STEM plus STEM plus business dual degree, UPenn and Berkeley both have that. You should definitely start your own business. And it's not even like, you could start a business on anything. So for example, if you see, I have like bracelets on Amazon that I sell. They're like reusable straws in them. It was really fun to make, and it's a business. And then there's also Skits, which is nonprofit. And I also made a card game on the bottom. So you could pretty much make a business out of anything. I think it develops a lot of great skills that will be useful in the future. You'll learn a lot about like laws and like different regulations. And you get to basically, if you're interested in starting any type of business at all, I think starting at a young age is definitely the best thing you could do. There's also a ton of summer programs. I think summer programs are very helpful if you're able to apply for them. And there's a lot of different programs that are free. There's a lot that are pretty cheap and give like financial aid. And one of the ones I went to was called LaunchX that also helped develop business. And finally, there's a lot of organizations outside of Whitney you could join, lots of clubs. At Whitney, there's a lot of competition, but outside there's also competition, but I would say it's slightly less. You could definitely try to either find your own organization or join someone else's, and that brings like a different perspective into your college application, I guess, because not everything you're doing is for the school. You're also doing things that are outside of school for the community as a whole. And then one very important thing I want to talk about is prestige versus impact. So these are probably the two most important things in your college applications. This is a thing other than, I guess, GPA that a lot of colleges would look at. So prestige often comes from competitions, awards, and such. They're extremely beneficial for like the tech colleges such as MIT, Caltech. And then impact is different. It's volunteering and leading different organizations. And Harvard and Stanford and schools like that definitely look a lot into impact, definitely look more into impact than prestige. So I would say you should try base your application around one of these, because it will be very difficult to do both. So if you want to base one around prestige, lots of research, competitions, and lots of like focusing, studying onto one field. And if you want to focus on impact, then just either club leadership or start your own organization and try to just build it as big as you can. So that is it for my presentation. I think there's some other questions that I haven't answered. So I guess I'll answer a couple questions about were asked. So the most memorable things at Whitney, I would definitely say the clubs. There's clubs. I think the most memorable club I was in was STEM Club, because it not only really helped develop my passion for STEM, it also introduced me to a lot of different things. For example, research. It also introduced me to business because when we had to get funding for our Science Olympiad team, I was able to start like my first business, which was a summer class for students. So I would say STEM Club, definitely the most memorable thing. What do I like most about Whitney? I would say like the ability to get to know a lot of like pretty much everyone in your grade, as well as most of the people in the younger grades. I think that this really helps you get to develop close relationships with a lot of people. And since everyone's so driven at Whitney, you could definitely, like, if you want to start a business, you could just talk to your friend, and then there you go, you have someone that's going to help you out. And then what I don't like about Whitney the most, I would say the school won't help you a lot when it comes to trying to like start your own business. Anything outside of school, even like some of the clubs, schools won't help you. You're going to have to really fight for yourself. However, even if the school doesn't help you, you should have a lot of like friends that are able to help. A lot of teachers will also help. Just the administration as a whole will sometimes be a little bit hesitant because they don't want, like, for example, if you start your own business, they don't want your actions to, if you do anything wrong, to like negatively impact the school. And then what would I have done differently if I could start over high school? I would say pursue some I would have started business earlier. I would have started in like ninth grade and then tried to build it as big as I can from there. That is the main thing I would have done differently. Some classes you shouldn't do. Um, I think you should pursue the classes that you're interested in and also pursue classes with rigor, because at the end of the day, colleges still look at that. So you should try, as long as you're able to maintain your GPA, try to take the hardest classes. Um, and so question, I lost my questions. Okay, what extra curriculum would you have done in high school that you think helps get you into your college? Well, I actually have a very, very cool idea for getting into college. I don't know if it works or not, but cryptocurrencies. Right now, cryptocurrencies, they're like kind of falling, but they're really big and they're not that hard to make. You could literally just copy someone else's code and then modify it to make your own. And then some of these cryptocurrencies blow up and reach like hundreds of millions of dollars. I think that's something I would have done if I was in, like, if I was doing high school all over again. It's it's like, it not only showcases your coding even if it fails, it's extremely original. Like, colleges are going to look at that and they're definitely going to find it to be something different than anything they've seen before. And if it blows up, then you're a millionaire. So there is also that. So I think definitely, even if you don't start your own crypto, you could definitely look at other people's and try to join their teams. There's a lot of open source, not open source, there's a lot of community driven cryptos that you could just join their team and then get your picture like put on their website. So that's something that I think, uh, if you're able to try it, you should try it. And finally, some comments about college essays. I would say my one advice on college essays is to get as many people to read it as you can. If you're able to afford like a counselor, even if it's just like another like college student, I would definitely suggest you to do it. These, it's definitely helpful to get another point of view looking at your essay, because whenever you write an essay, it's probably something you think is good. And sometimes colleges and other people just won't like that essay at all. So that's an extremely important part of writing essays, getting other people to critique your own essays. And yeah, I think that's all I have. Does anyone have any questions?
Harry, when you start your in college, when you start your
When do I start college?
yeah, when it's the start school start.
Berkeley starts pretty early, so in like August. Yeah.
Did you already met some your college future college students?
Yeah, well, at Berkeley, obviously a lot of Whitney kids are going, but the MET program actually has a special, like, they have pretty much activities like every week, if not like more, to help you get to know your classmates before you go to the school. So like from when you get accepted all the way to like May, there's a lot of different activities like They tell you about the different classes. They will also have, they'll invite like the Met founder. They also connect you with alumni and also students within the Met program. So yeah, the program itself definitely tries to get you to know a lot of your classmates before the program starts.
Okay.
Harry, what are you planning to do this summer? Are you gonna prepare for college or just chill?
This summer, I'm part of a crypto team, so I'm definitely gonna spend a lot of effort on that. Also, the Amazon business, I've shown you guys, we're kind of we're in like a process of like growing, so that's something I'll be working on, and also I will try work on skits if I am able to.
The Amazon business is that you are selling your bracelet, the drink, the straw bracelet.
Yeah, it's called the Blue Orca. We sell reusable bracelets with straws, reusable straws with bracelets. And we're kind of pivoting right now. We're trying to change the business into a system that accepts altcoins, which is like cryptocurrencies, like not just like Bitcoin and Ethereum, but also like Dogecoin, SafeMoon, stuff like that. We're trying to get into that industry because there's a lot of I guess like there's a lot of money in that industry that can't move around because you can't really exchange it for anything. So that's what we're trying to get into.
Anybody else like to ask Harry questions? Okay, if not, I'd like to say some of this for you senior students. The beautiful future is yours. The wonderful world is waiting for you to explore it. No matter what you choose, it's your time to take adventure. Not only you can do it, but also you can do it better. Just believe in yourself. Wish you happy, healthy, and successful in your future. Thank you for coming. Thank you, everyone. And good night. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye, guys.